So, the poem that I am going to do tonight that I want to perform for you guys is called Conversations About Race. And it's basically all the fucked up shit men have said to me when they find out I'm mixed race. And it's something that, as someone who's mixed race and women of color as well, you're this hypersexualized thing. But at the same time, they're a bit wary of you, or they don't quite like that the blood has been mixed somewhere, right? And I mean that from both sides, from the POC community and from white people. So it's kind of this really interesting paradox, and when I say interesting, I mean it makes me want to punch myself in the face until I pass out. But by interesting, I mean it's kind of like, oh my God, I really want you, but go away. But I'm really attracted to you, but fuck off. Which is tricky. It's hard to navigate. And I've really stayed away from talking about race or from writing about race in my work or in my poems, because I always thought, let me figure it out first. And as soon as I figure it out, and as soon as I know like what I am and which race I belong to, then I'll write a poem about it. That's not happening anytime soon. So to give you a bit of context, I'm half Egyptian, half Irish. I was born in, this is one person over there like, oh my God, exotic. That's what we're trying to fight against here. Born in Cairo to an Egyptian father and an Irish mother, and then my parents split up and I came to England when I was about 4. And my mother remarried a Pakistani man. So I was raised in Newcastle upon Tyne with an Irish mother and a Pakistani stepfather, who's always been my father. I would never call him my stepfather. He's just my dad. With this Egyptian heritage. And now I live in London. And everyone's like, where are you from? I'm like, I don't know. And it's like the quickest identity crisis of my life. Like, I just have no idea. And I always think as well, I've shied away from it because I've shied away from talking about race because I'm aware of my light skin privilege, and I always feel that sometimes I had less right to talk about it. But in the interest of honesty, which is what this event is all about, and being honest with ourselves, and I can only ever write what's true for me. And it might be true in 5 months' time, and it might be true in 5 years' time, or it might not be, but all I can do is write about the truth now. So yeah, this is what this piece is about. Generally, the weird shit white men have said to me, which doesn't mean that black men or men of color are not a problem. They have a different set of problems. Equally problematic. So the theme here is men being a problem. So cool. This is called Conversations About Race. You've got blowjob lips, he tells me. And I think, no, actually, they're African lips. It hasn't taken him long to throw his pleasure in my face, as if I needed reminding that Africa has been a white man's pleasure for so long. You're just like Jasmine from Aladdin, he says. And I know he's already picturing us in some desert beneath some stars. There's probably camels in the background. I tell him, actually, I'm nothing like Jasmine. My hips have never been that thin, and if I had a pet tiger, I wouldn't be enduring this conversation. He tells me that my hair flows just like the Nile and how he wants to swim in its waters. I remind him that the Nile can kill, how it made an orphan out of me, that his wanderlust cannot be satisfied here, that navigating his way around my body is a poor substitute for navigating his way around a map, and no matter how many times he pins my arms down, it's not the same as dropping a location pin. I've always wanted an Egyptian goddess, he says. Tells me that I can be his queen. I tell him that Cleopatra never took a king, that the white man she was with died in the end, that some countries, some women cannot be conquered. What's it like back home, they ask. And my mouth stumbles over 3 different countries. I don't know which one to spit out first. I'm choking on the idea of home the same way they choke on my last name. I wish I had a tan like yours, she says. And I smile quietly. I don't have the words to tell her of the sudden grief I feel at the sudden loss of my heritage. I've suddenly been packaged into a package holiday and a couple of bottles of sun lotion. I don't know how to tell her that it's just my skin. I'm too embarrassed to tell her how I've longed for different skin that would put me on a map, that would make a map out of me, because I'm longing to belong, because this half white, half brown, half black has cut me into so many halves, I don't know how to make a whole. I'm not exotic, I'm just exhausted, tired of chopping up my body into bits for you to feast upon. This is back-breaking work. My back is broken. Your fantasies smashed across it. My humanness erased in favor of sex because it sells so much better. So, when they tell you that you're their Nubian queen, their desert mirage, their golden girl, oriental goddess, black beauty, caramel cutie, mixed mama, or anything else that squeezes you down into something that's supposed to be consumed, tell them that you are no light snack, that you were not made to be taken lightly, that you are a heavy meal of rice and history and broken chains, the only side you serve. Tell them that your skin was not meant to stretch over another man, that your body is yours and you name it mine. Tell them that the blood in your veins is a revolution, that you have a revolution running through your veins, that your blood is the ink that will rewrite our history one day, that borders and boundary lines meant nothing to your parents, that you are a product of love, a loud, obvious love that refused to follow the rules. Your curly hair, a constant fuck you to their straight-lined lives, their order and control. You run a riot every time you leave the house. And when they tell you that you two would just make such beautiful babies, tell them that you don't need a white man to make something beautiful, that you can fuck one of your own men, that some recipes don't need milk, that our kind has never drank that much milk anyway, that we prefer to drink from deep wells. We pull our water up from the heart of the black earth, and it's the sweetest thing we've ever tasted. Thank you very much, guys.